On Christmas Day 1778, she took her own life. And she was there when they pulled the body out, and she looked a little bit unsurprised, a little bit too amused perhaps. A hotel sits there that has been there ever since the 1200s. He turned around and there was an old lady there. Hello and welcome to this Halloween special. Halfway through I thought, yeah, it's not going to plan this. I'm talking a little bit about what I originally intended to, but I'm also kind of veering off at the same time. And the reason for that is just reasons. So without further ado, I do hope you enjoy this rather improvised video, but I think it was good anyway, so whatever, do with it as you will. We kick off this special episode all the way over in Blackburn, specifically Clayton Le Moors. Now, a hotel sits there that has been there ever since the 1200s. Its name, the Duncan House Hotel and Spa. In the 1770s, the Duncan House Hotel and Spa, or Duncan House Manor as I think it was called back then, was home to the Peters family. They hired a young French girl called Lucette, and her job was to be a maid and look after the children. Not long after living at the Duncan House, Lucette basically fell in love with the children, and she won their affections. As a guest, a man from the military efforts was invited to stay at the Duncan House, and so off he went, and I think it was quite inevitable he was going to bump into Lucette at some point or another. Rather quickly, Lucette caught feelings for this man, and she became with child. As Christmas approached in 1778, Lucette desperately wanted to tell this man, whose name escapes me, which doesn't really matter as much. She wanted to tell him that she's with child, she's having his baby. She can't go home to France because, back then, even in this country, having a baby outside of marriage was kind of frowned upon. So off she went to try and tell this man that, hey, I'm having your baby. And he'd gone. He'd left her. Now, unfortunately, we think the man went over to America to fight Washington's men, because obviously this is like a year after independence, so tensions were still high. So he's fucked off, and unfortunately, Lucette just couldn't deal with it. She thought she loved him, she thought he loved her, and he'd put a baby in her and then gone. On Christmas Day 1778, she took her own life in the Hyndburn River. Many people say Lucette can still be seen and heard on Christmas Day every single year. One person said he was out walking his dog on an evening in, I believe it was the 80s or the 90s. And he saw a lady that he initially thought was in fancy dress. Long, swirling, beautiful dress. Long dark hair. Very pretty. She looked at him blankly and right before his eyes, faded away into nothingness, leaving but a hint of perfume. Others have said that she can appear within the Duncan House buildings. The earliest that is still there today is from the 1200s. The Duncan House, as lovely as it is, I've stayed there a couple of times myself, you can kind of tell that there's an eeriness to it. You can book weddings, birthdays, etc., various venues. But there's always something lingering around, something you can't quite put your finger on. Maybe it's Lucette. Maybe it's a crock of shit. One thing is for certain, it's quite an eerie place, but very nice nonetheless. So if you go to the Duncan House Hotel and Spa, have a look for Lucette. The street I grew up on was built in 1951 by Oldham Council. By 1955, there was a young lad, around about the age of 10, settled in with his family, and he used to enjoy playing around the canal, the Rochdale Canal, and it's still there to this day. It far predates the houses, being from around the 1790s. Now, as I was growing up there were certainly precautions and sort of issues made of parents saying, don't go and play too close to the canal, it's dangerous, if you get stuck on something at the bottom, it's game over. But unfortunately, this lad went off playing. He said to his mum, "Can I go play?" She said, "Have your dinner first." He did. He went off playing, be back before dark, his mum said. He was never seen again. Not long after, his body was found in the canal. He'd drowned. The inquest heard that they can't rule out the possibility of murder. It's just that all these years later, they could never figure it out. Was he pushed? Did he jump in? Was he playing with a friend? Was one of his friends covering? Maybe a terrible accident. We don't know. That's sad. It is. It'd be sad if it happened to anyone. However, here's the strange thing. Here's the kicker. One of my great aunties remembers this happening because our family, amongst others, was the first to move into that house, on that street. My great auntie says when they pulled the body out of the canal, his sister was there, slightly older, probably about 15, and she had a bit of a reputation for being quite promiscuous. There were old brick buildings along the canal. I think most of them are gone now. I'm not sure if they were like pump houses or something. And she would go in there with older men to do presumably you know. And she was there when they pulled the body out, and she looked a little bit unsurprised, a little bit too amused, perhaps. A lot of people were pointing the finger at her, but nonetheless, they could never prove anything. But it is food for thought. And my apologies go out to that person if she's still around today. It's just a bit strange. I'm not really one to tell tales of ghosts, apart from Lucette just a few minutes ago. But there's one that stuck in my mind for a good few years, ever since I heard it. My late grandma-in-law, Margaret, she lived in the house that she lived in since 1961, when my mum-in-law was born. And a lady who lived there before was nicknamed Mrs. Teacup, aka Mrs. Wincup, but all the kids used to call her Mrs. Teacup. And apparently she was fine with this nickname, because she got along with everybody in the neighbourhood. Margaret's husband, Joe, said that one night he had a big crash. He said, what the fucking hell is that? He went downstairs, and there was just glass everywhere, all over the floor, all over the counters. Strange. So he went back, cleaned it up, went back upstairs, thought nothing of it. Maybe just slipped or something like that, About a week later, he was sleeping downstairs. I don't know why. Maybe, might have had a drink or something like that, I don't know. He turned around and there was an old lady there. Wasn't anybody he knew. No relatives, no friends. Doors were all locked. This old lady just stood and looked at him for a while. Smiled. And then disappeared. He said, without any reasons as such, he thought that was Mrs. Winkup. No reason for thinking that. No pictures of her had been seen until the internet came out. So, I know this episode so far is a little bit higgledy-piggledy. There's no real structure to it as such. Just a bit of a vibe. We're going to go for a walk soon. We're going to go and have a look at St. Thomas the Martyr of Poland. In the dark, with a red torch. Because why not? Who doesn't want to get a load of munchies and watch somebody scare themselves shitless over things that probably aren't true? Anyway, I hope you enjoy this seemingly random. It's not random. It took more planning than it was worth, honestly, but I hope you enjoy it anyway. I'm enjoying making it. there were a couple of complications. What do you think of this? It's a salt lamp. Oh, it's warm. But yeah, I'm not necessarily doing the stories I was going to. I've done a couple that I was going to, and I haven't actually rehearsed any lines. I've just come out and said them. So it's not the best in that regard, but it's raw, you know, and I'm Italian now. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be raw. And I know I've said that a few times about other things, but yeah, anyway. You can tell I'm losing my voice. I just want to put something together for you that's like kind of nice for Halloween, you know. I mean, what we intend to do, and I know nobody's asking, but what we tend to do is like we put the white noise on because our dog Paddy hates the fireworks. There's Matt. He hates the fireworks, and people have been setting them off for like a few years now. Apparently, we do fireworks in October now. Anyway, yeah. So where was I? Oh yeah, we put the white noise on so he's not as scared. It drowns out the noise a little bit. Maybe they can put this on. Maybe my family can sit and watch me make a video that doesn't really work. Yeah. Who cares? Who cares? Fuck you, Quentin Tarantino. I can't speak properly, I'm sorry. Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. Wanker. Okay folks, bonus content for you. Change of plan. We're not going to St Thomas's, we're going to St James's. Reasons. I feel like I've said that a lot in this video, but there are reasons, so yeah, whatever. Okay folks, we have made it to St James. I'm just going to stay here for 1 second because I can't see anything. Okay, made a minor adjustment. Give me a moment. So while we're here, I wanted to check out Jane Sim's grave because I don't know whether you remember my original video of this place, but it just feels like we should come and have a look, check everything's alright, you know. There's a bit of a connection there, you know. And there she is. What's interesting is this is like a little bit of a follow-up now, but we never could find much on her in the beginning, or a family. And where I'm shining red, that's there's an angel down there. Anne put that on, and the flowers and whatnot. Obviously you can't see much, but this is Jane Sim and her family. So yeah, in the beginning we couldn't find a lot on her. We were using Ancestry, but then all of a sudden there were some hints, and we haven't fully solved the puzzle as to what happened, you know, and who they are, etc. But we haven't fully figured out, you know, the puzzle as to who they were, where they're from, etc. However, we've got some of the information, and they are relatively local, but there are still one or two sort of mysteries. to do with Jane Sim and her family. As far as I can tell, the house where Jane Sim lived in last, not far from Wigan, no longer exists. Warrington Road it was on. And it looks like it's been knocked down at some point. As to when, I don't know. I haven't been able to figure it out yet. I could use the old maps and try to suss it then. The only issue with that, some of the dates are missing, or some of the maps don't work, and things like that. You know, it's a shame, but eventually we'll figure it out, you know. Yeah, once again, that's the angel that Anne put on. But every time we walk Paddy here, we have a little look and check everything's in order, you know. Like I say, it's like there's some sort of connection now. Like we, not like we're related, but like I don't know, we have some sort of duty. I think I'll have a look at the big stone for the Molyneux, because another thing I said on my original video of St James's, or St James even, is the likeliness is I'm related to these people, which is really nice. I might not be, you know, I don't know. But by chance, I'll give you some of the extra context here. Totally by chance, I figured out Walton Hall that recently burnt down was built by a Molyneux who I was related to, or I'm related to. Obviously, they're long gone. And yeah, totally by chance, I just learned that. All using Ancestry as well. Ancestry, it has its problems, but tell you what, it's a brilliant resource overall. Yeah, so this big stone here for the Molyneux, I don't know. Might be something to do with my bloodline, who knows. Let's have a look around. I think the camera might be a bit dodgy on this one. It's been absolutely peeing down. The torch isn't very effective on camera because of all the LED street lights around. But if I get into a really, really dark bit, I'll go over here. I'll film down, maybe you can see my feet. I'll film downwards and then you can see something. I know it's not very good. And then when I'm away from the lights, it might be a bit more effective, you know. Okay, I've adjusted the light a little bit, so it should be a little bit better. It's still very, very difficult to see, I'm afraid. It's slightly better from afar, isn't it? Especially when the text is a bit more contrasted to its background. Yeah. I'll tell you something. If somebody was walking the dog through here, like we very often do, only not usually at this time at night, if they see somebody with a big fluffy hood up and quite a long coat and a red torch talking to a camera, they think, what the fuck's going on? Unless it was another YouTuber, that would be a massive coincidence, but hey, that'd be good, wouldn't it? I'm not going to go to that end because of them. See them? Bloody... they're not nice. They're overbearing. Cut through here. In the distance you can probably see me boyfriend and my sister playing with apples, I believe. What I could do, could talk a little bit or recap. Excuse me, it's getting rid of the COVID. We could recap on what I was talking about in the earlier segment of the video. Lucette, how about her? Obviously no pictures can be found of her, not that I know of. Maybe there's some at the Duncan House, I'm not sure. They wouldn't have had cameras then, but maybe paintings, you know. But what a bastard he must have been at. Slung it up her, like right up a drain pipe, and then buggered off to do whatever. I mean, okay, granted, he was part of the war efforts when America got independence, but still, he could have been like, oh, I'll come back if I survive. But no, to my knowledge, he didn't do that. He just left her, and she obviously killed herself, unfortunately. Very sad, really. Shouldn't have to come to that. Oh, that's a shame. This one's on the floor. Tell you a bit of a story about that story, or story of the story. My mum and stepdad went on holiday. This has to have been about 2016, roughly. And I stopped at home. And at that time, I was going through one of my phases of going absolutely, you know, deep into the history of different things, and one of them was Duncan House. And that's when I think I learned of Lucette. And even then, that's a number of years after I first ever stayed there. Oh, there's another one on the floor there. Bloody hell. Oh, bloody hell, a couple more. Jesus. Sorry for saying that word in a graveyard, but don't use his name in vain. It was a few years after I'd stopped at the Duncan House. Never knew of Lucette when I first ever went. But when I was going through all the history and stuff, and you can picture the scene, you know, having a cheeky fag, aka cigarette. For those of you who aren't in the UK. 'Cause, you know, late teens, you do all these things when your parents are out, don't you? Or sometimes. I did anyway. Sorry, Mum. And I'm there with me dodgy pizza and chips. Had some tunes playing in the background, and I just kept getting vibes. And then from that moment on, you know, when you get the feeling / memory at the same time, when you hear songs you heard at a certain time and they bring you back to that moment. Well, I kept getting these like creepy vibes. I know we all laugh when we say, don't we, creepy vibes, but I did. Kept on getting these like funny vibes. And these songs, I won't tell you which ones they are because they're not really that relevant, but if you just take my word for it, the songs were, they weren't scary songs, they were like just, you know, good songs, just not pop, knowing me, that like indie, electronica, rock, bit of synth, things like that. Not the sort of stuff you'd think would remind you of paranormal or murder, or, you know, things like that, dark stuff. Nonetheless, they did. So I was 17, 18, whatever at the time. So I'm not sure whether it's maybe just a young mind full of curiosity. But yeah, it was interesting. Because you've got to think as well, you're home alone, and it's not scary, or maybe to a degree it is, depending on who you are, but it was, I'm trying to figure the way to word it. I'll admit it was a little bit scary. Not the fact that I was home alone, but it was more the fact that, I don't know, I had my mind set on, uncovering all these ghost stories. Well, even if they weren't necessarily ghost stories, more just the stories themselves, whatever they may be. Oh my bloody God. I thought I saw somebody then. It wasn't a person, it was just that you can't see me light flashing on it. In the first grave here. Okay, now. Doing it again. I'm going back 10 years. What were I saying? Oh, God knows. Yeah, video of this segment is crap, so I'm sorry about that, but maybe the stories, the vocals, that the dialogue will make up for it. And them two are just playing with apples. I won't film them too much because I know my sister doesn't like being on film, so that's alright. But yeah, anyway, back then I had a channel, not Pesky Shadows like this one, it was another one. And what I used to do with it, there were me and a few friends that ran it. It was mainly comedy, believe it or not. And we'd do various skits or parodies. But the funny thing was that it was quite variable. I suppose you could say the same about this one. But it was variable in that there were a few different things going on. There were vlogs, podcasts, all the funny stuff. And you could even say there was experimental stuff on there, just whatever. And yeah, we weren't well known or anything. Looks like it's snowing. Bloody hell. Yeah, we weren't well known, but we got like a tiny bit of a following, which was quite nice. And we planned on visiting the Duncanalsh for an occasion where we'd do something like this, have a look round at night, maybe speak to the people running the place, because at the end of the day it's an ongoing business, it's a hotel, so you have to pay respect. We pay respect when we come to cemeteries and graveyards, we do. But yeah, with a hotel, because it's a little bit different, we wouldn't have necessarily just shown up and said, oh, we're going to film. We would have asked, and I believe we did actually. I can't 100% remember. It's going back nearly a decade, so forgive me for any information that's a bit patchy. But yeah, wait. Oh God. Genuinely saw someone, then it was a normal person, don't worry. So yeah, anyway, it never happened, needless to say. But I think it would have been really good if we did. Because where I used to live at the time, it wasn't far from Duncanalsh. Church/Clayton-le-Moors, part of Blackburn and Accrington. I used to live up there for a bit. I lived in Oswald Twistle as well. Anyway, there's something else we were going to do, and I don't know whether Clark is watching, but the asylum in Cheadle, I was going to do that, but not the one he went around. It was the old one that was like linked to it. But the video I'm thinking of where Clarky went, it had already been knocked down. So just thinking back, 2015, 16, I think it would have been there. Well, I believe it was. I remember looking on 28 Days Later at the time, and there were loads of pictures of it. Obviously it was all graffitied up and that, but I'm just going to stop myself a minute. I've had a weird experience here. I could have swore there was like a wall here at one point. I know you can't see much because it's dark, but I don't think I've been to this corner of the cemetery. Graveyard. Yeah, how bizarre. Okay. Oh dear, my voice is a mess, isn't it? I know it always is anyway. Particularly, even for me. Yeah, anyway, so we were going to go and do that. Something happened, I can't remember what it actually was, forgive me. But, yeah, it was bizarre. We were going to do it and then something happened that stopped us from going. This tree is nice, it covers the area. Sorry, a veer off. Yeah, I suppose back then we were just curious and wanted to, put our motivation into something practical and do something. I mean, at the time, I think we were all working, some of us in like different positions, different jobs and that. And the main goal was to, pardon the French, but fuck that off and try and make it on YouTube. Because I think then, it had already happened to a degree, but nowhere near today. There was like a rise of, you can make, a living on it. People are watching your stuff and you're getting yourself an audience, you get paid, maybe get a sponsor. Yeah, anyway. Certainly not expecting that with this channel. It's not what I'm trying to do, to be honest. I mean, if ever the time came where I got myself into the position to, get some more money, get some more equipment, maybe a studio for myself, and then I would push a little bit harder in terms of creative content, what I'd be making and then publishing. But I think being realistic, I don't expect anything major to happen with this channel as of yet. Certainly not how things are, got other priorities and that's alright. Anyway, the lad in the canal, how about that? Horrible story, that, isn't it? And I tell you what, because this is extra context, it's set, I'm going to turn the red torch off, guys, because you can't fucking see it. Put new batteries in it as well. I am under the impression it's these horrible lights. But anyway, let me find my music. There we go. Lovely job there. So bonus content, so I can give you a bit more information now. I'm sure they won't mind if I give some, not personal information, but a little bit more information just so you can understand it more. So my auntie Marion, she's actually my great auntie, my nana's sister from my mum's side. And my auntie Marion, her sisters, brothers, mum and dad were the first in that house, and my family still got it. My nana lives in that house, and obviously it was my nana's mum's and dad's originally. So they were the first in it when they built it in 51. They'd come from a home that was not small, but small for how many of them there were. I think that was pretty common in the day. So anyway, what happened? There was this other family. They went and moved in, and they had this lad. In the beginning, I said he were about 10. He wasn't. When I'd looked at it again, he was 6. So that's sort of worse, isn't it? Really, to a degree. And this lad, I can't remember if it was Earlham or Gordon, something like that. He went playing by the canal. Well, that it's suggestive, but not necessarily true. We don't know. He's ended up near the canal, and where Cartmel is, it's only a walk over Henshaw Bridge. I won't go too far this way. I don't want to get in trouble. So yes, at some point, his mum has said to him, have you tea? She said something along the lines of, he never come back for his tea. But the coroner said he'd had something to eat 2 hours before he died. So who has given him food? Or where's he got food from? Which is bizarre, you know? Just give me a sec. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I was switching the batteries round so I could get this on. Much better. So the red is obviously really dark. Anyway, let's try not to disturb anyone. I'm not referring to the people who have sadly deceased. I mean neighbours, or I think the vicar might be in the church at the moment. So him, people walking by. I just don't want people to think, oh, there's something strange going on. Because the truth is, there is. No, I don't mean any harm or anything. I just don't want anyone to think I'm doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong, you know. Right, so anyway, this lad, I think he was called Gordon Earlham. I'll correct myself on screen if I get anything wrong. Oh, look at that rose, that's nice. Hello. Yeah, so, where's he got this food from? His mum said he didn't come home for his tea, but 2 hours before he died, coroner suggests he's had something. Unless him and his mate went and got something. Because they think he was with his mate. And from what I remember reading about it, his friend said he sort of just went off. And then he didn't see him alive again. So it's a tricky one. But how sad is that? And the other thing, you know, about his sister, like I said in the other bit of the video, if she's still around and she never did anything wrong, genuinely I do apologise for saying it the way I did, but it's just that a lot of people had concerns before he passed, you know? Going into these little buildings with strange men, and she was underage herself. Apparently, you don't really want to know this, I know, but when they pulled him out of the water, he'd only been in there, I don't know, a few hours or something. He had these like really bizarre marks on his face, according to me auntie Marion. Great auntie Marion. She's just had a hip done, auntie Marion, so everybody wish her the best. She's doing okay. Not long ago she broke her bloody ribs, fell downstairs. What's she like? She's still going though. Trooper. She's only dead small as well, my auntie Marion. She's like my auntie Brenda. Auntie Brenda passed away a bit ago now, but only really small, you know, like 5 foot, I don't know, 4, quite thin. So, the other thing I was going to talk to you about as well, I chose to keep it in the video because it didn't matter as much, but when I said about Anne's dad seeing the ghost, that bit were true, but the thing with the glass, it was milk bottles that had smashed, and it was actually Anne herself who saw the glass. And something I didn't include, but I'll throw it in now, is when Anne and her brother Mike were young, I don't know, probably late infancy to early teens, something like that. Something weird happened. You know me, I'm not one for all the mad paranormal this, that, the other, but they all swear by it, and I have no reason to think they're chatting shit, you know what I mean? What happened was, what's now a bathroom was a bedroom. The loft hatch is in there, in Margaret's old house. I say old house because Margaret sadly passed. You know, up in that loft hatch, obviously you'd get the loft and that. And the wall to the, like where the window is, if you know what I mean, is the original like ending to the house. It was extended in I think the 70s or something. And I think it was before it was extended. So anyway, I'm veering off. I'm telling you too much. You don't need to know. There was one night, something was like trying to come out the attic, the loft hatch, sorry. I call it an attic, mate. I know most northerners call it a loft unless it's been converted, but it's like in our house, I call that the attic, because it's got velexes. It's usable as a room, so it's an attic to me. That it's a loft if it's just dark and used for shit. Unless it's both. But, yeah. Oh, they're nice colours, aren't they? I think they're fake flowers, but they're very nice. Yeah. Look at my shoes, I'm soaking. Be recent morning, as Matt says. Something were crawling out, and it was Mike that saw it. Being the younger of the two at the time, he was fucking bricking it, you know what I mean? He says to Anne, like, there's something trying to come out of her. Something like evil, like a dark cloak. When I heard the story for the first time, the way it was described to me, it sounded like a Dementor of Harry Potter. You know, dark, a bit creepy, eerie, dark, sort of, I don't know, a black figure. And it had like horrible, bony, long hands. And they reckon it were a poltergeist. Because on one occasion, it made the bunk beds tip over. These aren't my words, by the way. And I'm sure, as this will be on in the living room, Anne can correct me as I'm sat there watching it with them. This video. That's if this even makes it to the cut, because I feel like I'm not doing so good with this, but whatever. Just walking around, aren't I? Walking around, talking a bit of something. It's something though, innit? It's something for just put on. Anyway, another one falling over. There's a lot falling over. If I had super strength, I would pick them up, but I don't. What was I saying? Oh yeah, and Mike became really ill, actually. They don't know whether it was, a genuine illness or something mental. Well, I'm saying mental illnesses aren't genuine, of course they are. They don't know whether it was like some other illness or the worry and stuff. There is a photograph of him from that time. You can tell he weren't himself. He's all pale and skinny and don't look good at all. Now, they got, I believe, a priest. I could get this wrong right now, but I think it didn't do much. And for Anne's dad to actually consider doing that, I think was quite a big thing. I won't get into the reasons why. But in the end, Anne actually swapped bedrooms. And I think she heard something, or saw something. She ended up shouting at the top of her voice, "Get the fuck out!" You know, all that kind of stuff. And surely enough, it fucked off. Which I guess is pretty cool, isn't it? And I believe Mike was okay then. And Anne she's quite tuned in, sort of, what would be the right words to use, spiritually. She's always very intrigued when I do my tarot cards, things like that. She said there were one time she popped her head up into the hatch. She couldn't feel anything at all. Nobody there, not whatsoever. So obviously that's good. Yeah. I'm sick of this COVID stuff. I called it a cold before because I didn't want anyone to, like, report my video, but now I'm just thinking, whatever. Yeah, I'm sick of it because I keep feeling better. I feel like I'm 99% over it. And then I go down to like 70%. I'm like, oh, can you piss off? Piss off, please. Oh, look, it's a wild mat. Do you play apples? So yeah, I don't know if I should do any more or if I should just cut it here. Might just cut it here, get back to the editing suite, aka Matt's laptop on this occasion, and call it. I wanted to do more, but my mind keeps going blank, and I am warm, wrapped up in a hoodie and my big coat, but I feel like, I don't know, I don't feel right again. And I know I sound like I'm being soft, but yeah, I think I'm going to call it. So thank you very much for watching and listening to this episode. That's been a bit improvised. You could say, even. And I don't know what I'm doing next, but we'll certainly see you, or you'll see us, in the next one. Before I go, let me do one thing. While I changed my torch, didn't I? Turned the batteries around. So I went from red to normal LED. Let's just have a quick look at Jane Sims' grave. Yeah. There we go. Jane Sim. Oh, the family on there. Good night.